First, we're going to talk about just an overview of the process. We're going to give you some definitions. We're going to tell you about the parties involved, what the timeline is, what the medical steps are, and what the legal steps are. That's going to be this morning. We're also going to talk about this morning some of the major considerations that you are going to be confronted with. What you want your family to look like. Whether you want to have traditional surrogacy versus gestational surrogacy. Again, we're going to hit all of these topics. Whether you want a known egg donor or an anonymous egg donor. What are the medical decisions that you have to make, and what are some of the ethical and social considerations that you want to consider? What is surrogacy? We define surrogacy as the act of a woman, altruistic by nature, carrying a children or a child for another individual or couple with the intent of giving said child or children to the intended parents at birth. We define this as altruistic in nature because I've never met a surrogate mother who didn't at some point have the motivation to help somebody who couldn't have a family have that family. Yes, we are going to talk about compensated surrogacy, but compensation really, it's there to address the dedication to the process that the surrogate makes to you as a commitment, the disruption to her life in going through the medical process and being pregnant for you, and the risks involved in pregnancy. We're going to talk more about compensation later on, but I will say, if you were ever matched with a potential surrogate mom and a red flag goes up in the back of your head that this really is about money, or particularly if you're doing what's called an independent surrogacy journey, where you're finding all of the components yourself and not working through an agency, if you have that red flag come up, pay attention to it. It's very important.
My name is Sherman Taylor. I've been with the board for about a year. We have 2 children via surrogacy and egg donation. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 3-week-old. So typically, on average, it's about 20 months. Now, of course, it can go faster, it can go slower. Some people can get things done very quickly, like things just line up. Some things take a little bit longer. Our last journey, we started looking for a new surrogate in March of 15, and our son was born in October of 2017. So about that 20-month time frame. We already had, we needed to do another egg retrieval. We had to find a new surrogate because our first surrogate wasn't available. And so, so we were doing all that stuff, and we did independent for our second journey, but agency for our first journey. So I've done both. So, like I said, there's a ton of people involved. So there's you, the intended parent. You have to be medically screened. You'll probably talk to a psychologist as well to make sure you understand what you're going through, to get yourselves emotionally ready to handle the journey, because the process can be very intense. And you know, 2 things that people commonly fight about in a relationship are children and money. Well, that's what surrogacy is. It's about making children, and it takes a lot of money. So if you think there's not going to be emotion involved with that in this process, it's time to recalibrate, because there will be. And there's going to be a lot of people involved that are going to be dealing with parts of money, dealing with parts of having your own child, so there's a lot of folks involved. So you're going to be talking to psychologists, you're going to be doing the FDA mandated screening. There is screening for surrogates. There's screening for your egg donors. They have to do disease and drug testing, all mandated by the FDA. And before you get to the screening pieces, you have to decide who do you want to work with in your journey. From an agency, from a clinic standpoint, from an attorney standpoint, there's going to be options, and most importantly, from a surrogate standpoint and from an egg donor standpoint. So there are agencies out there that will have egg donors for you. You want to decide what type of woman do you want to be part of your family from a biological genetic standpoint. So we did a lot of soul searching when we were in this process, and we wanted a woman that was this tall and had this background, and we wanted a woman of color. It's a personal preference thing. A woman of color, so of a diverse background, education wise, height wise, and you can ask all these questions like, did she have acne? Did she have asthma? Did she have any chronic health conditions? How long are her parents been alive? Like, are her grandparents still alive? Like, all those things go into the kind of screening process to figure out who you want to contribute to that. And then from a surrogate standpoint, she's going to be also screened. So has she had healthy pregnancies? Has she had any complications? Is she having a healthy lifestyle? So all that kind of deciding on what you want to partner with in a surrogate and an egg donor standpoint happens up front. Everyone picks each other. You pick your egg donor, your surrogate, and you, as the intended parent, decide that you want to work together on a journey. You create embryos. which is an intense process as well. It's where the bulk of the clinic costs are. And then after the embryos are created and potentially tested, they are transferred to a surrogate. And in that process, you're working with a lot of contracts and legal, and we've provided a highlight or a high level of the steps that go into that. So again, you're bringing all these people together to build your family and follow the steps here. And again, it's typically about 20 months, but it can go faster or slower depending how things work. One of the things that typically drives the timeline is the availability of the surrogate that you want to journey with. So there's a bunch of criteria that can go into finding the right person. Will she be willing to accept one embryo or two embryos? Does she want to work with, same-sex couples, or she prefers traditional couples? So clearly, with us, there are women that want to work with same-sex couples. So yes, so that's important to know. After the embryo transfer, there's pregnancy tests, there's monitoring. You're seeing your clinic, your doctors. You get through the first trimester screening, and then into the second trimester, there's some more testing, and then hopefully at the end, there's a healthy baby being born, and hopefully he or she is calm and sleeps like 24/7, like our little one does right now, which I'm very thankful for. Yep, and then I'm going to hand it over to Anthony for legal. So thank you.